Jack Ginnivan.
Oh, jeez.
Hmm. Airplanes in the night sky like shooting stars.
Just
I could really
immediately
use a
going
Ken
for
right
it.
now. Ken right now. Ken right now.
Just immediately going for it straight away. Just here you go, Hawkins.
Stuff it. I see what I can bite. Who wants to bite on the bait?
Straight away. Any Hawks fans that are watching, just immediately taking off straight away.
Thank you for your time and viewership. Appreciate it. Nah, it's all love. Like honestly, I don't know.
All love.
I've seen worse at local footy.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. But also at local footy, there's not fucking hundreds of cameras.
Well, there could be.
There's like one.
There's one.
One at best.
With the recording one, it's probably as average as a 2005 camera.
Yep, always.
Love watching those ones. Like you watch your games back, and well, actually, your games don't get recorded, but mine do. Anyway, and just watching my highlights back, and you have to put it through a fucking HDR recording just to make sure you're watching the right thing.
I don't even know if it's you getting the footy. You're like, maybe that might be me.
Also, anyone that just before we get into this, it's that fucking early. We're doing it in the daytime.
I don't know if you can. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you can see. Usually this has no brightness. Usually this is dark when we do
It's
this.
11:15 on a Sunday.
Monday
One,
morning,
I'm not really that hungover, which is fantastic.
unbelievable.
Two, we have to accommodate to Jared's needs and times because he dictates everything about this show and doesn't even edit it. Like honestly, I mean, he's granting me more time to edit, which is good, which means we actually get it out at 4 o'clock for once instead of five. But you know, we're here and we're ready.
By my needs and things, when he says that, it means that I have a work shift today, an 8 hour work shift that I have to do. And I preferred and thought it would be better for Ant to be able to do it earlier rather than recording at fucking but whatever time tonight before he has to get up for work at 5:30 in the morning. So apologies for me doing that to suit my needs. My needs.
Welcome to the glass table, everyone.
That's a play of the game. That is the play of the game. The impossible angle, and he puts it through. And Portland. Danger, 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 danger. Butler, 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 Butler. Get around him! Get around him! Edge of the seat.
Righto, welcome back to episode 62 of the glass table. It's yours truly, the pair. It's yours truly, Jared Thomas. Back after what may have been one of the most epic semi-final weekends we've ever induced. I don't even know the word. It's too early. Um, Jared, how are you? And yeah, what a weekend.
Yeah, I am well. As we said, it is early, which is interesting. It feels weird because usually we do this and then I go to bed straight after. So I think it's going to make me subconsciously feel really tired. But I'm well. Everything's going relatively well. You are absolutely right in that this semi-final weekend of footy has been tremendous. There was a lot of times, particularly last night in Giants Lions, where I thought this game is not going to be any good, and there's always going to be one bad game among the bunch. But credit to Brisbane, they made it one of the greatest finals you'll ever see. And it was a great weekend of football all around. Good at atmosphere, good pressure, good vibes, good everything. Just unreal footy, I say. Absolutely unreal footy. How are you going on this very early Sunday morning?
I'm really good, simply from the fact that I'm holding on to all the emotions that I still have from Friday night in one of the most. Now, this is not a dig at anyone that suffers anxiety or anything like that because I do, and I'm open about it. But that whole 2 hours is what I would like to describe as just an anxiety watch along. You sit there and your heart's beating in your throat, you're sweating, and it's fucking 10 degrees. You're wondering what life's going to be like after this game, win or loss. And it gets to that final 30 seconds, and you're watching the biggest Sava Radigalia take the match saving mark. after D'Ambrosio has run past 16 of your fucking teammates, and you're thinking, wow, we're being embarrassed in the final minute. Everything was going wrong, and somehow it ended up being right, and I don't understand. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling at the moment. Um, and yeah, like it's been just a weekend.
Has I we're obviously going to touch on the games in particular in a little bit, but that whole final minute and a half, 2 minutes of that fucking game is the equivalent of just like it's like you're just throwing everything at the wall, just being like, I don't care, let's just go. And like credit to Massimo because he was just like, fuck it. If no one else can do it, I'm gonna fucking do it. And he was just trying to do everything. It was so funny. And then you look at that, you look at last night, you look at everything. It was just chaos. It was footy was chaos this weekend, and it was so funny to watch. And like you said, for any fans at all this weekend, anxiety would have been through the fucking roof. And I cannot even imagine how that experience was Friday, especially Friday. It seemed like the crowd was fucking have 50-50 almost with Hawks and Pear fans. It was fucked up how like the nervous energy in that stadium would have been insanity.
Let me paint a picture for you because this you're absolutely right. I would say 50-50 because it stands out a little bit more being the brown and gold, but in the end it would have been a 60-40, 65-35 spec because there was a few top tier aspects as well where there was a lot of Port fans. And the way ticket take works is the fact that people that are premium members have to be shoved up the top.
Of course.
Not speaking from personal experience. Anyway, so yeah, the fact is, all the Hawks fans were like almost like they rocked up, and we walked in an hour before the game started. It's almost like they rocked up as soon as the gates were open because they were all there and they were streaming in. You walk into the city, you go to one pub, it's all Hawthorn. You go to another pub, it's all Hawthorn. You walk through Rundle Mall, it's all fucking Hawthorn. The Wizards of Waverley Place were walking around everywhere. All the witches' hats. I saw kids buying witches' hats at Kmart. And I'm just sitting there going, the feeling of dread, and it almost felt like the result had already happened. The momentum of Hockball was so true and visible. You could actually see what it was.
Yeah.
So, without getting into the game as yet, it was one of the more, clearer spectacles where you could say there was a genuine one-sided momentum push for Hawthorn. And somehow the power didn't go out.
Exactly.
I've never eaten worse chips before a game. The beer has never tasted worse. And we sat near the cheer squad, and I was just looking at everyone going, "This is just why are we here?" In the end, I knew why we were there, and that was to send Jack Ginnivan and his 22 teammates and Sam Mitchell with a little aeroplane, fly on home. We should actually, before we go to the game, without this whole talking point's been done to death, and I think it's at the point now where you can take the piss out of it because it's funny.
Yes.
What was your initial reaction and thoughts on Ken and his aeroplane?
My initial reaction and thoughts actually has nothing to do with the moment itself. My initial reaction and thoughts have everything to do with the response from the commentators that came with it. Obviously, you were at the game, so it was like you didn't have the whole commentators thing with it. But this is not okay. I was going to say this is not a dig at Luke Hodge. It basically is a dig at Luke Hodge, right? Luke Hodge was like, "You're a grown man. You shouldn't be acting like that." Blah 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 blah. I understand it. I understand. Ken's 60, Jack Edmonds 22, whatever. I get it. Like I get that vibe. I get that whole thing. Ken's been around a lot longer than Jack. That's true. However, Luke Hodge, you were very well known in your career as a veteran that was fucking basically bullying the younger guys. There is on camera in front of many, many people in a Port Adelaide game where you fucking try and take Chad Wingard's head off against a point post. Like very maliciously, very meant to. If it happened today, you'd get 10 weeks for it, kind of thing. So I don't think of all the people in the world And of all the people, even at that commentary desk, Luke Hodge has the right to say, you're a grown man, you shouldn't be acting like that. I just think it's a little bit on the nose for Luke to be doing that. Jordan Lewis as well, both known to be pretty shit blokes out of the footy field. I just think, let's calm it down a little bit. Maybe, heat of the moment, Ken was, understandable. Ken probably made a mistake. That's fine. Just Luke Hodge, I don't think is the right man to be talking about this. Just a little bit. I don't know. That was the thing that I took issue with it. I was like, fine, it can be whatever. Luke, though, don't you be saying it.
Well, this is the thing. You look at the people that have come out and talked about why it's bad and why it's embarrassing. Throw some names out for you. Luke Hodge,
Yep.
Jordan Lewis, Sam Mitchell, the coach, Dermot Brereton, just to name a few. Do you think
There's something
there's
in
a
common.
common theme with those four in particular? Could it be the fact that they previously wore brown and gold? Could it do with something the fact that they all were pretty much pricks in their day? I don't know. I think, and I love there was a take from I think one of the Port fans, and I thought it was fantastic. And I'm not endorsing the fact that everyone every week should come out and act like you know a person like Ken did essentially. Look, it's not a great look, and I love the fact that he's owned that. We can all move on from it all. Like I think that's okay. I think in the heat of the moment, James Sicily as well probably wouldn't want to ruin Luke Bruce's moment. It was all for the wrong reasons, but I think Ken's initial thing is he's funny, man. Like someone, a player comes out and says, "See you in 14 days," completely disrespects the whole um, semi-final opponent. I have no. I mean, yeah, it'd be probably better if a player did it, but I love it. There's been so much about Ken with his coaching position, his stance on things, his just everything about him has been questioned. And the fact of the matter is, the football club, the players, Connor Rosie, the captain, Ken, the whole club been, you know, written off and under so much pressure this week to perform, especially after last week. And it's warranted. Don't get me wrong, absolutely warranted. But when you sit here and your team's just gone through one of the best finals you'll ever watch, pressure was enormous. Kenny's a passionate person. He, in that moment to me, whilst had a dig back at Jack Ginnivan and his comment, almost stood up for the poor fans of cop shit for everyone because you don't throw something at us and not expect something to come back. This
Of course.
I love it because that's the stance I'm taking. I'm going to be gracious I'm not going to go up to a Hawthorn and say suck a fat one. No, absolutely not. No, but at the same time, I have, and everyone has the right. Once you win, you can absolutely brag about it. The journey's not over. It is for Hockful, but yeah, that's the stance I take. Really, I think it's harmless. I don't know. I think the other thing as well is James Sicily probably escalated the issue, and every rightly so, standing up for your teammate. But stop yapping after a while, man.
No, I know. I think it made it look bad that he was still cheering Luke off while he was chatting to the English. That's where I think that's where Sicily then crosses the line, kind of thing. Like that's where he needs to stop and realize this isn't about me anymore. This needs to be about Luke Bruce, kind of thing. I think my thing is the only reason this is a big thing is because it happened after the game. If in the game a Port player kicks a goal to put you 8 points up, whatever the case may be, and then they do like a flying thing, everyone's like, fuck, how good's that? That's so sick, kind of thing. But then because it's after the game, because it's Ken, it's very like whatever. The thing is, Ken has a history of being very emotional after.
Yeah,
We remember that. Like Ken has a history of being a very emotional person after a win because he just has a lot to give up. Like he is that kind of person. I mean, Planet Elite coaches as a whole like to do that. Really, we all know fucking Choco. We know the tie. We know everything. Like this is just it's the emotion of wins. I get it. Ken obviously afterwards came out and said, "Look, it was the emotion of everything. I probably shouldn't have done it." Respect to him for doing that. I think it just adds to the rivalry. I think Port versus Hawks is now a very blockbuster thing for next year, which is really exciting to look at. Also, the fact that all the games they seem to play seem to be 3-point wins or, in the tiniest of margins. I don't know. I think at the time, it is what it is. I think people are going to just be like, whatever. Like, I think the general public don't really give a shit. The only people that care are Hawthorn fans and Port fans. Everyone else is kind of just watching, just sitting back like, what's going on over there?
Yeah,
Like, everyone else is just kind of like, that's
like
pretty
a like a tennis match. It's just
yeah,
oh
just, oh.
oh.
Like literally, like I haven't seen any like real neutral commentators just like really giving that much of a shit. A lot of people are just kind of like,
I liked John Routh's take on it.
yeah,
I don't know if you've seen that. I like the fact that he came out and said, I know the media are very pro Ken
mm,
in some ways, but I like the some people coming out giving their opinion and going, yeah, absolutely. And people within the AFL spectrum are just like, absolutely. I love it. More of it. We want more.
yeah,
And what fucking thing brings all the eyes to the AFL more and a bit of theatre?
the theater, exactly right. Which I think perfectly leads into the actual game, which was the most fucking theater experience of all time.
Lock in.
Before we get into anything, right? This is actually just sprucing content that I made for ESPN. But there is a quote graphic on the ESPN that I released that night after the game where they said the media, footy media and footy public love to heap on Ken Hinkley when he loses. They love it. One of their favorite things in the world. If you are going to be as disrespectful as you are to Ken when he loses, you need to start praising him for the fact that he wins these games that he has to. And I said it last week. It's the reason I tipped Port. I said that every fucking time Port have their backs against the wall and Ken is one loss away from losing his job, they pull it out every single time. And sure fucking enough, they did it. I think I got the tip wrong by 1 point. But regardless, they fucking did it somehow. And I think, yeah, it's exactly right in that it's about time people start realizing that Ken is a clutch coach, but clutch in the ways that probably you don't want to be. That you get yourself to the point where you're about to lose, and then you come back and win again.
I mean, Port Adelaide are the equivalent of the AFL's bipolar.
Mhm.
Because the 1 minute there, everything's kind of rosy, and then, you know, then you're just feeling like Charlie Dixon. Like, it's just, and you're completely right. And I don't want to make this game too much about Ken, and I know he already has. And I think someone actually commented on the review or something like that. They were like, Ken's probably smarter than we think. He's probably doing this on purpose, so he's in the media again and Porter under the pump again, which means they'll go to Sydney and be like, guess what? And then he'll probably go up to John Longmire and like push him over and say, take that L, and then we'll go into
And
the
then it happens again.
And guess what?
The cycle continues.
Ken's found the secret formula, but no, to put it on the perspective that, yeah, he finds a way. And the beauty about it is the whole Port Adelaide football landscape is built on emotion. They play on passion. They acknowledge, and I love the fact they just came out and said, we actually have no idea how we lost last week by that much. We just had no effort. We just didn't come to play. And what else can you say? Oh, we didn't do this right. We didn't do that. Like, no, just be honest. All right, we had no fucking idea what we did this week.
Yeah.
They come out and they're like, nah, our coach has been ridiculed. We deserve every bit of media scrutiny. Everyone was writing Port Adelaide off. They found a way. The pressure inside the first 15 minutes of the game was one of the most unreal things. When Josh Weddle's getting tackled by Todd Marshall. So you ever seen those horse races where, there's a horse that far out in front, gonna piss it in.
Yeah.
And this thing comes flying down the back straight. That was Todd. And he was galloping like he had all the time in the world until the last 10 meters. He just went, hello.
Yeah.
Hola.
I'm here now.
I knew then. I was like, right, we've come to play.
I was literally going to say that was when I was like, I think this game is going to be a lot different to last week's. And I was like, they are restricting the free-flowing Hawks football that they love to do. And there were times in the game where Hawks could do that. There was that run, I think it was in the third-ish quarter when Nick Watson started getting on top of it kind of thing, kicked a couple very quick sort of succession, and they were going pretty quick. And I was like, okay, Port have to fucking steady. And then I think they kicked one, Rioli might have kicked one right after to be like, stop. We're back. We need to just calm down kind of thing. I think obviously, like, you spoke about they just didn't really know what happened last week. The fact that you had Zach Butters for a whole game definitely helps as well. Like, that's a player that is going to be able to make an impact no matter what. It was one of those games where literally from the first 10, 15 minutes, you were like, oh, this is going to be hot footy. Like, the tackles were fucking huge. Everyone was just smashing each other. And I was like, this is going to I was like, someone's either going to break something or we're going to have the greatest game of all time. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be one of the two.
And it nearly was because without, besides the first three goals of the game, Port led by 22 points. After that, it was literally pretty much almost goal for goal.
Yep.
And Port were the best side on the night, probably with their pressure and the way they used the footy and were a little bit cleaner on the contest. But typical of a few umpires, and the umpiring decisions. These sling tackles and dangerous tackles have to be reined in some more
Yeah.
because it's to the point again. And I heard a rumor that both two out of the four umpires were Hawthorn supporters as well. But when when you are slinging tackles and doing dangerous tackles to the point where you have to make a decision on holding the ball, why in these situations? Oh, there was one in the last quarter as well that Hawthorn kicked a goal on where I think it was Boak tackling McDonald on the wing. He literally flat out dropped it
Oh, yeah.
and didn't get called.
Yeah.
I get it's finals. I get there's a fine line between letting it go. And there was a couple of deliberate calls as well. There were a few calls where it was like, all right, we can't call this. We're not going to call this either. Even it out. Fair enough. But there's a fine line between umpiring finals games and umpiring a home and away game. We can't change the interpretation of the rules that we've been considering. There's no interpretation on for how many years now. Like yeah.
Yeah, I think the umpiring was pretty bad, I think, overall. Last night's was a little bit better. Wasn't as bad as the Port Hawks game, but the one that, like, the things that got me was obviously I think there was three dangerous tackles in that first quarter or whatever it was. Two of them got paid. This is all Port tackling Hawks. Two of them got paid, one didn't. The one that didn't get paid, I thought should have, and the two that did get paid, I thought shouldn't have. It was fucking weird. Like, the Burgoyne one was pretty bad. The Jones one might have been there. I thought the Butters one was probably the most freaky of all of them. I don't think he got pinged for it. So I was like, it's so weird. I don't even blame the umpires. I blame the fact that the AFL is just, and I say this every single time, the AFL has just given them so much to have to think about at all times that they just kind of, like, it's so much. And I say, like, you need to strip it all the way back. Let the umpire adjudicate. Like, you need to strip everything back to the point of it's about protecting the head. Like, that's the whole kind of thing. I don't even blame the umpires. I just blame the AFL for smashing them with all these different rule changes and interpretations and everything throughout. It's just like, what's incorrect disposal, what's no prior, what's knocked out in a tackle, what's a throw. Like, it's a whole fucking thing. Like, there's a lot. And obviously, in the end, the umpiring decisions that went Hawks way obviously didn't end up mattering anyway. Port ended up coming away with it, which was good anyway. But I think the AFL can kind of look at the game and be like, finals pressure and finals tackling is a very different thing to usual. And I know you can't just change how you interpret rules during the season and not, but I think you also need to look at momentum is a lot more like people are hitting each other harder. That doesn't mean it's a more dangerous tackle. People are just hitting each other a lot harder, which makes those movements seem a bit more aggressive than they usually are. I don't know. I think it's very interesting. But the game itself was still good anyway, regardless of the umpires. So can't
Yeah. Like I said, it was the most anxiety-riddled game I think any fan could induce. And James Sicily in the last couple of minutes, hitting the post. Dylan Moore hit the post a few minutes earlier.
Insane.
Yeah, I thought Sicily, that was his gonna be his moment. A sensational move by Sam Mitchell because he was being tagged by Frankie Evans all night.
Yeah.
So he's gone, all right, well, where are you going to be dangerous? And you're going to put in Miles Bergman, who was having an average night. He stood up in a moment, but didn't convert. And then you look at the other side, and you have Port Adelaide kicking, three quick goals in a row. And I think it was Georgiadis obviously slotting one, and Burgoyne, who was just. And we'll talk about kids and standing up in finals. I'll get to Burgoyne a little bit later, but Logan Evans. There was a moment in the last quarter. He was deep in the pocket at the Hawthorn end, and he's just gone, all right, I'm going to become Swan Lake and absolutely pirouette out, hit a target on the wing. The way certain kids stand up in moments, he's 18 years old. He had 537 meters gained and was arguably in the top five for best on.
Fucking awesome.
right in the conversation. The other one that we've talked about pretty much all weekend is Jordan Sweet. He's the bloke that was on the outer of the Dogs, right behind Tim English. He's a hell of a story. Had 51 hitouts against the Cats the week before. Didn't do much with them. Unfortunately, the Cats were very smart in the midfield and took advantage of his dominant hit-out work. He comes in this week against Lloyd Meek, who is arguably the form ruckman of the comp, and goes, I'm going to have another 50 odd. I'm actually going to hit him to advantage this time. And not only that, I'm going to chase down my Chol. It almost looked like the bloke from Happy Gilmore wanting to get the jacket back.
I was
Mr.
about to
Gilmore's
say,
jacket.
that's Mr. Gilmore's ball.
It genuinely, that's what it looked like. And it was so funny to
That is
watch,
one of
but
those.
also one of the greatest non-chase down tackles ever.
I was gonna say it's one of those things that you won't get a stat for because it's not a tackle. We get a pressure act or whatever. But he made Chol run too far. Like there is no doubt in anyone's mind that he was the one that made Chol run too far. Obviously, he didn't lay the tackle, but Chol knows there is a guy on him and gaining on him, to be fair. And so he just forgets the whole thing to bounce and whatever and runs too far. Unbelievable from Jordan Sweet. Like one of the great moments in a final where you're not going to get a stat for it at all. Like he won't even like in years you can't see it on anything. Like it's whatever, but people and Port fans in particular will be like, "Fuck!" Remember that Jordan Sweet chase down on Joel where he didn't actually tackle him, but he made him run too far in the last like 4 minutes of the game. Just unreal, like so good from Jordan Sweet, and I loved it. It was fucking awesome.
It's good. When you got Ruckman chasing down players, that you're in a final because they don't do it
You
during
know,
the year at all.
it's doing a bit exactly.
But in the end, eventuated and became a 3 point Port Adelaide win. And as you mentioned, the Hawks and like, these two are creating a rivalry that's really good. Like we've seen, and it's funny because I've obviously everyone's seen the stat, but the last two times Port played the Hawks in a final, they've lost by 3 points each time, and now they've beaten the Hawks in a final, and it's by 3 points, which that's a hell of a stat to have against a team in finals. And again, it builds the momentum for what can happen next week.
100%. And it's genuinely anyone because people know, and it's still very fresh in the memories, and I'm sure it's very fresh in the mind of Sydney fans, especially that Port went to Sydney and gave them an absolute fucking bath not that long ago. So
Actually, it was in Adelaide, so
oh, it wasn't that long. Well, either way, Port faced Sydney and gave them an absolute bath. Sydney weren't exactly undermanned by any by any stretch. They were like that was one of the most bizarre results of the season. But now you look at it, they're facing a prelim. It's like maybe it's not that bizarre because who knows? And now this game is probably more open than the Port Hawks game was considered to be. Like it is bizarre. Obviously, we can talk about Port forever, and there is obviously a review, but I suppose we should mention at some point Hawthorn in the fact that obviously a fantastic season for them. We know that we said that last week as well. And they still played some good footy in a lot of patches on Friday night. And the players that have been able to stand up for them do continue to stand up. John Newcomb has put together one of the great seasons definitely his best season ever. One of the great seasons like of anyone in the
second half in particular.
Yeah, unbelievable. Nick Watson continued to do Nick Watson things, like doing the things they need to do. These players are still standing up. We spoke about it before, but Massimo D'Ambrosio almost put the entire team on his back in the last 2 minutes of the game and tried to do everything. It was still a fantastic season for them. They'll be disappointed, absolutely, but this is definitely not the last time we are seeing this Hawthorn team. We are 100% going to see them at this point of the year next year, and it's going to be. They are a very, very solid team, and they will absolutely be disappointed. But I think Sam Mitchell said in his press conference after the game, it's going to take a little bit of time. They're going to feel the pride eventually, though. It's disappointment at the time, but I think Sam Mitchell would have woken up the day after and been like, "Fuck, gave it a fucking crack, didn't we?" And I mean, it was a game of two teams that just fucking wanted it more than any in the world. They just fucking wanted it, and I mean, you can't blame both teams for it. They were both red hot on the day. It was just the Port just had that pressure, like you said, and just strangled what Hawks usually do, which is run and carry and do the things they need to do, kind of thing.
Yeah, it was like Hawthorn versus Hawthorn, really.
Yeah, it was fucking nuts.
Just like Sam Mitchell is an excellent coach, has done an amazing job with this team in the second half of the year. The run from 0-5 to get to this point is, I think, he deserves all the credit in the world. Probably outcoached on Friday night by 60-year-old man, as Luke Hodge would say. Um, and it always teams spell an end, and I think next year they'll be back and probably I mean that could be better. Like, and they the things are they're after in the off season with Barras and Battle. Like, you add that to their taller defense. Obviously, as we mentioned, they can get Mitch Lewis back into good nick in the second half of next year. Obviously, did his ACL, but they can get him back. Another preseason under these young kids, and yeah, Hockball is definitely not dead. It's just putting on the shelf for 6 months.
Yeah, and like people were saying this sort of towards like a little while ago, like when it was sort of getting into finals, but they have the same blueprint as that Collingwood team did, 2 years ago, where they 2022 Collingwood started the year really poorly, stormed home, winning all these games, kind of thing. Obviously, it's a bit different in that Hawks were smashing teams coming into the finals, kind of thing, and then had a heartbreak in the finals, but said we'll be back, we know what we want to do, we know what I can do it, and then the year after came out and did that same thing. Hawthorn seem to be tracking on that same trajectory. A coach that really understands the team, a young team that are just full of energy and excitement, the leaders that are trying to lead them through it. They are 100% going to be around. But yeah, like you said, I think just outcoached slightly on the day by Ken, and I think it's a finals thing as well. Obviously, Sam Mitchell's played in a lot of finals, hasn't coached a lot of finals, and Ken has and knows the losses, knows the wins. So it was one of those things where just outcoached in a pressure environment, a genuine pressure cooker at Adelaide Oval, and Ken just took it away.
Yep, definitely. And it was a good viewing.
Very good game. For a neutral fan, I was sitting there like, this is fucking nuts. Like, this is so
Yeah,
good.
you're lucky you got to be neutral in that situation. Just let me tell you,
It was shit house. Shit house for you, I'm assuming.
I have no nails. Good God. I'm gonna have to do it all again next week.
Except you'll be
Finals,
in
finals are
Melbourne,
shit.
in Melbourne with a few beers in hand, probably.
Yeah, for those unaware that I'll be in Melbourne for footy trip, so which means only one thing. Friday night's gonna be just more than anxiety. Maybe like that scene in Deadpool where you get like stabbed in the head and like little unicorns and stuff come running around.
You're just gonna find a pub and just sit home.
I want to have a corner table with my own little TV.
That would work.
Hmm.
You could make your way to the precinct and just tell them to give you a little TV and just sit there like this.
Can I have a palmy and a little TV, please?
I think if you say palmy, they might punch you. So
No, because I said it correctly.
no,
Yeah,
no, we're just gonna do this intro. No.
yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about the the Giants and the Lions because we could be here for hours on Portland, how good they are and how good Ken Ball is. But this game was obviously again a tale of two halves and second best comeback in history in the finals by the Lions, and I don't know how they did it. I don't understand how they did it. I don't know. To be honest, I don't even know why they did it at the point they were at. But I, my question here is, and it was, you can't even say it was a great game because the last quarter and a half was the only exciting part about a comeback. But does the loss of the Giants, is it more a Giants factor here, or is it a Lions contingent that didn't we wrote off, but we shouldn't have?
Obviously, it's in some ways it's a little bit of both, but I think primarily it's actually a Giants problem in that they have now shown twice in 2 weeks that they fade off pretty quickly. And in finals, you cannot afford to take your foot off the gas even a little bit because
Nope.
teams like Sydney and teams like Brisbane, who are both very, very talented and have very, very, very talented teams within them, will make you pay no matter what. And that is what they found out on the weekend. Funnily enough, of all the fucking superstars on the Lions team and the players that they continue to somehow pull out of nowhere, the biggest factor, I think, was Oscar McInerney. He in that third and fourth quarter was huge. He took
Mhm.
so many marks and obviously kicked a few goals as well in that surge, both surges that they had, because they had to have two different surges, which is so rare because they came from 44 to about 19 points or whatever it was. Then the Giants kicked one or two to make it back. Oh, it got to 13, keep one or two to put it back out to 25 and kind of settle it. And then they had to go again, the Lions. He was huge in both. And you look at the players for the Lions, Neil, Dunkley,
Yeah.
Zorko, Luggage, Bailey, all these players. McInerney was the guy that was like, fuck this. I'm going to make this my own. And he was huge, like massive in that second half. And yeah, they did it. I don't know what it was.
You did say he kicked a few goals. He kicked one.
Okay, well, he had another shot that was
Yeah,
close.
he missed it on the right hand side.
Yeah.
But for a ruckman, that's really good.
Took a lot of marks on the wing. Did a lot of work, Oscar. Big stuff.
It's amazing how much a game you sit through and you look at the time of the comeback. It was 80 to 36, and four goals, 12 at that point, and they end up with 15-15. It's almost like they found the middle of the bloody sticks. Joe Danaher was huge late as well. Four goals with his ability on tight angles, and his kicking's always been a very questionable factor about his performance. So for him to do that was really good. The, the likes of Kai Lohman and Charlie Cameron kicking their goals. Dane Zorko kicked a couple as well. All these moments led to um, them getting to a point where I think with the Lions, like we saw it last year against Carlton in the prelim, they were 5 goals down, but you don't take away from it at all, because I think the internal belief they have,
They never ever.
second to none. I love how they've done the opposite of what they did last week. They started really well,
Yes.
faded off. This week they're like, all right, we know we'll give you a head start, but then we're going to just come storming home.
Prove we can do it both ways.
If they do a complete package, they can take Geelong absolutely at the G.
Yeah. It's one of those ones where like you know that like there's always one thing with the Brisbane that lets them down, and like you said, it was there was the scoring accuracy in the first half where 4-12. To be honest, they probably shouldn't have been 44 points down because the Lions had a lot of the footy and just could not kick goals. Like it would, it's a very cliche, and the good kicking is good football, but like they just had to kick goals and they couldn't, and it was bizarre to watch. I think a big help for the Lions was that like you said, and then some other things well, like a lot of the stars didn't really shine that bright. Like Neil had a bit of it, didn't do that much. Dane Zorko had a horrible first half. Like had a lot of the footy, but was like gave away a lot of free kicks, turned the ball over heaps, was letting James Peatling do whatever he wanted really at half forward.
Oh, Peatling.
Fagan Peatling looks good. Zorko then realized that Fagan really realized that, okay, this isn't going to work. We can't let Zorko just keep getting bullied like this because Peatling was kind of playing on him. So we said, we'll move Zorko to half forward, a position that he does know how to play, and let him play up there. Let him be in the attack. Let him try and get us back in this. And he did. He kicked two. Like, he was huge late, Zorko, after a pretty poor first half and three quarters. Like, another half of that third quarter. Like, a lot of those stars couldn't quite do what they needed to. Charlie Cameron was really quiet until very late again. But again, the Lions stars know when to shine, and they did it because they just stormed home and ran over a good Giants team. Like weren't bad, just not good enough.
Clearly are getting concussed as well. Was a big hit to their. I think they're not not in the moment, but their longevity on the ground as well. Like they would have obviously had to figure out their rotations a little bit differently. So him going out was a big loss. But yeah, you're absolutely right. For them to do it without their key stars absolutely igniting is a true testament to the Lions' will, but also the Giants. When I can't believe the Giants play a game of footy, they get to 100 points. They've got Jesse Hogan kicking 5 goals. They go out in straight sets. I get like it's another, as you said, like it's the taking your foot off the gas, and I don't. It's disappointing because they had a real chance this year in the
100.
season that is so questionable on who the hell is going to win this thing. It's it's very interesting to see that they've gone. Oh, we're just going out straight sets. Like
Like they are not a straight sets team. Like you look at that team, you look at the way they play, you're like, fuck, like that is, and like the thing is you look at even just both the games, like should have probably beaten Sydney, should have beaten the Lions. Like both of these games they should have won, and it's like it sucks because they're good. Like they're a good team. And when they're up 44 points, I was like, this is probably an awakening of the Giants are really, really good still. And, I don't know. I don't know if it's a mental thing. They've got a lot of young players, the Giants, obviously, like you said, and like the likes of Darcy Jones and who Darcy Jones was really quiet yesterday. Like a lot of these players that haven't really been in this experience before, but they've got a few in there that have, and it's like I don't know what it is. I don't know what that next step is, kind of thing. I don't know if it's like the ghost of last year where they were heartbreakingly taken out by Collingwood. Like I don't know. It's a really rough thing, but credit to Brisbane for, yeah, like I said, like their stars didn't really shine, but a lot of the other players did and gave them a fucking crack to just be like, we're going to get out there and dominate and hope for the best. And, Jared Berry was really good. Like you spoke about, Loman was good late. And like players like this, Wilmot had a bit late. Like it's just, yeah, they always find a way, Brisbane, to just be there every time. And they continue to do it. And now it sets up some very good games next week.
Before we get into next week, I do want to just say one thing, and this particularly will be something towards the AFL media and the perception and opinion of so many outlets that we have and access to everything these days. When you come into a final series and you keep pushing it down my throat on TikTok, on Reels, on Twitter, on anything, that you say, right, the Hawks, the Dogs, and the Giants are the three best in it. They're all on their way to Bali at the moment. It just proves and shows to you that anyone can throw a dart at a dartboard and it will land anywhere.
Yep.
And the fact of the matter is, this season's been so unpredictable. You cannot sit here and tell the world a prediction that you can strongly believe in and strongly predict that it's going to happen. We've just seen a team be 44 points up and they've lost a game and they're out in straight sets. We've just seen the most powerful momentum of a team and of a presence in hockball and the wave of that brown and gold get taken out by a team that got pumped by 84 points the week before against a team that no one thought had a bloody chance. The storylines that continue to showcase into this season, making it so unpredictable, which leads me into saying we've got now two unbelievable prelims. And prelims, you sit here and go, I never thought I'd see these two play
No,
in a
these are the ones you wouldn't expect. Yeah.
and it starts on Friday night with the Swans taking on the Power at the SCG. It's going to be amazing. I don't know what to think, to be honest. Then you look at Saturday,
Yeah.
and you've got at the MCG, Geelong and Brisbane, who at the start of the year, one may have predicted them to be almost, you could say, grand finalists.
Yep.
Could have been a potential grand final, especially when Geelong were 0-7, 7-0, and they were on fire. So these two games are unpredictable. Start with Friday night. Give us a thought and a tip.
Bizarre. Like I said, these are like two that I just did not expect to see, and it is the absolute proof that in finals you can tip anybody and it might come true. Like you don't have to put any analysis into it, just fucking hope for the best, really. Just throw some darts, let your dog eat out of one or two bowls and just pick that team basically, because who knows, like who the fuck knows who's going to win any of these games anymore. We've seen it happen in game, we've seen it happen before games. It's bizarre. No one knows at all. So Power and Sydney shapes to be another one of these games where it's just like, fuck it. I don't know. Maybe. Like, who knows kind of thing. Like we saw last week at the SCG, the atmosphere has been electric recently, and the Swans fans are really getting around those teams. And I know that Port are going to have a pretty good traveling base. They do tend to have a pretty good traveling base, regardless of anything. We have seen some very good Sydney Port games at the SCG in recent history. Obviously, we've seen it last year. We see just these games happen. They're always a weird result, it seems, in Port and Sydney, which is really, I don't know what to think about it. But regardless, this game is going to be very interesting. Friday Night Lights, as we said, it's going to be bizarre. You will be with a lot of beers in a corner of a pub somewhere in Melbourne. Which is very exciting. But it is going to be bizarre. I think I have no idea. And the tipping is so hard in this point where Sydney are, I think, relatively pretty strong. I don't think they have really any injuries. Obviously, Port won't be with Todd Marshall this week, as he's had secondary concussion, whatever the case may be. Which means they
That bloke has secondary concussion when he hits a pillow.
which
I feel sorry for him. Bloody hell, man.
I know, which means that probably Charlie Dixon has to play, which I I don't think I can say my opinions about Charlie Dixon on this in a nice way. So that's that. But I think it's gonna be very interesting. I think
You don't like Big Dick? Big
when you put it
Dicko?
like that, no, I do.
Big Charlie?
The big Charlie. I'm not the
Yeah.
biggest fan of the big Charlie at the minute. No,
Have big dick energies, huh?
Jesus Christ.
He'll come in and swarm the SCG with his big hands. Anyway, continue.
I don't know. I don't know if Port are gonna have the okay. I don't know if Port are going to have the defensive capabilities. Obviously, if Burton plays, I don't know if Farrell comes back, which I think he might be. Obviously, no Houston still. I just think the Swans that forward line, not even that forward line, that midfield that kicks goals might just be enough. I think I'm going to pick the Swans by 9 in what is going to be another fucking unreal game of the SCG because these teams never cease to amaze in either a belting or in a genuine fucking like last minute heroics area.
So you just hate me, really. You hate me and you hate Big Dick. Like, it's just.
What did you say last week? Reverse psychology. There's some reverse psychology for you.
It fucking worked.
Exactly.
We're gonna fucking do it again.
What's your tip and thought for Swans pair?
I'm a bit derailed about the fact that I've just put myself and Big Dick in the same category. Like, we're both key forwards. We both kick goals. Both a bit sick at the moment.
Both just anyway.
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. I don't really know what to think about this because it scares me that it's the Swans at the SCG, and I hate the fact that people are already talking about, well, the Swans haven't beaten Port since 2016, which is just the narrative they want to write now. They're like, oh, we've overcome a streak and we've got in. Like, it's Brock Lesnar beating Undertaker. Like, come on. It's not that big of a deal. Like Kane Corn said, I made me laugh when he said, someone was rinsing Ken and he goes, he's just got his team in a prelim final with 5 players on the list that shouldn't be on an AFL playing field. Like, I would really like to know what he's thinking and what 5 in
And
particular.
I was going to say which 5 he's picking.
I could name a couple. Anyway, yeah, I think the Swans are probably that momentum thing. You know, they can if Port brings the pressure they brought last week, it's going to be so close.
Yeah.
Just think the SCG factor is going to be the thing that undoes us and undoes Port. But I did it last week and I'll do it again this week. I'm tipping the Swans by 11.
I like it. Very well played. The thing about Sydney that is Sydney and Port particularly, Sydney tend to in every game. I can't remember the last game they didn't do this. Just let a team get off to a really quick start.
I don't want that.
No, I know, I understand that, but like I think of all the teams in the league, Port are actually quite good at when they get the momentum, they actually use it, and like that's probably why they won by fucking 400 points against them earlier in the year because Sydney let them get out to this thing, and then Sydney were like, it's all right, we'll come back in the rest of 3 quarters like we do every time. But Port were like, no, like we don't want to do that. We're already playing really good. So if it happens like that again, and I think that's going to be a big point for Sydney training wise this week, and what John Longmire is going to be fucking like smashing at them. He's like, don't fucking let them kick 4 in the first quarter to our none. Like refuse. Do not let them do it because if they do that, they're probably fucked, to be honest.
That's funny. The other thing I really wanted to ask you is, what pub do you reckon Jack Ginnivan's watching this game
in? The Emerson. Or he's going to be in Bali somewhere.
Do you reckon I got a chance of seeing him next week?
there is a better than no chance that that guy's around, and you'll be wearing. I'm going to assume you'll be wearing a port item of some description.
If I see anyone to do with Hawthorn next weekend that is on the list, Jai Sarong, for example, I don't give a shit who it is.
The plane's coming out. Absolutely.
Airplanes in the night sky like shooting stars. Ginnivan could really use a wish right now. You just got kenned.
Kenned again.
I'm just Ken.
I saw so many Ken off things after the game, and I was like, "Oh, it's back. The meme doesn't stop, doesn't
He's just
die."
a bully.
Just feels
Big
so.
bowling ball head is just a bully. Ken man. I can you do the Ken man. Anyway, the other game that's playing on the weekend, supposedly, Ken's not involved, but it doesn't matter. It could be.
He
He
was
might just be like,
around, I'm sure he was around Geelong for periods of time.
oh no, yeah, he's got some DNA at the Cats, absolutely. But imagine sitting there and being like, oh, I'm just gonna rock up and dictate things here as well. Okay, I reckon he's just everyone's coach. Um, this one's even more. This I can't pick this because the Cats. We've seen one game from the Cats that really dictates everything, and it's against Port Adelaide. Now, I'm not disregarding the Cats' performance against Port because it was unbelievable, but you just can never tell the true form of a team when they play Port Adelaide
No, no,
because it's
it's
like playing
yeah,
22 autistic kids.
playing in the Twilight Zone. It's like you just have no
Yeah.
idea.
You know, when two circles like combine and there's like gray area in the middle, you don't really know what side you're on or who you are.
Yep.
You gotta go through a journey of displeasure and pain, but also
Every
seek
time,
reward and beauty. See the beauty through the pain. That's Port Adelaide.
every time you play Port Adelaide.
Yeah, we have the biggest cycle in the world. So when you play Port and now you've got to come up against a Brisbane outfit who has just done the two kinds of things that you can do is start so fast and then pack your bags and go home and then not rock up at all until half time and decide, right, 44 points is probably enough. We're going to win now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. And clearly I'm going first on this tip. So in my honest opinion, it's the Cats because I feel like there is just too much for them not to win this game. I don't know, and this could go for both games. I don't know what your thoughts are, but the concern for me about both the Swans and the Cats is every team that's sort of had a week off this year is pretty much lost. You know,
Yeah.
I wonder if this break between a qualifying final and prelim is going to affect these two sides. Still tipping the Cats by 12 in what's going to be an epic, but it's going to be something to watch, I think, is how the Cats start, how the Swans start. Well, actually, can't pretty put that on the Swans because they don't rock up at half time, but it'd be interesting to see. But what do you think?
Yeah, this is absolutely one of those ones where it's much like I think I had Giants at Sydney as this in the first week, in that I have no fucking idea who's gonna win this game. It is genuinely a coin flip. It's gonna be I think, like you said, you can't really judge the Cats off that one performance against Port Adelaide. Obviously it was great, but it's one of those games where it's such an outlier that you're like, maybe that was nothing. Like maybe it when a win gets so comprehensive that it's kind of like maybe they're not actually that good at all. Like it's one of those ones. So you have no idea what's to come. I really like Brisbane. I think all around the ground they are really talented. Although in saying that, for the majority of yesterday, Jack Payne was getting an absolute bath. But it is the gold medalist, so it's fine. But regardless, I just I don't know. I the Cats. We talk a lot about how the Cats have this this youth that are so good, and they do. Like they absolutely do. There is no doubt about that. The Cats also have on the other end of it a lot of players that are very very well versed in a final. Specifically, one of the all time greats in Patrick Dangerfield. I just don't know if the Cats are gonna be able to score as easily as they were able to against Port Adelaide that day. And Port Adelaide had a undermanned backline, as we know. And that's basically what killed the game was that the small forwards were just flying at the back. I don't think the Lions are gonna let that happen every time. Starcevic is very, very, aggressive. Ainsworth the same. They got a lot of players that won't really let that kind of thing happen. I'm gonna tip the Lions like just by 10 points. I just I don't know. And again, this is one of those ones where I just will literally flip a coin because, like we said, if the Lions can put both together, they'll be fine. But is one going to fail? Is one going to work? Is Eric Hipwood going to touch the ball this time? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to just see how they go. But I'm going to tip the Lions.
All right. It's very, very funny that this tips graphic is going to say you saying the Swans by 9, the Lions by 10, me by the Swans by 11, and the Cats by 12. The whole time you were talking, I completely agreed with everything you said, but also my little mind was amused by that.
Numero
My other
uno.
thing, I learned three things, and that was the first one. The second thing is we've tipped the Swan on a week that's probably really, really devastating for so many. We've gone the Swans each 9-11.
Rough. Horrible by us.
Lucky we put the graphic out next week.
Yes.
It's all okay.
It'll be
The
past.
third thing, and probably the something that I think this will probably be the clip this week because we need one.
Yes.
There is a very, very, well, obviously there's a 50-50 chance of this happening anyway, or actually 25% chance because there's four scenarios here. But anyway, there's a chance that there could be 20 years on Port
Yes.
Adelaide versus Brisbane in a grand final.
I thought about
20
this last
years
night.
after what happened with Choco Williams in that grand final. 20 years later, the story.
I thought about this last night. I was like, wow. I was like, this is a thing that is it's kind of building to be that. And I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. Because I remember last year we had Collingwood Brisbane.
Yeah, I know. And it's
I'm
just like,
like, I'm like, I don't know.
is history repeating
That's what
itself?
I'm
Like,
saying. Are we doing cycles? If that's the case, in approximately 5 years' time, I'm gonna hate everything because yeah.
nothing, not always everything has to revert back to your St Kilda pain.
But if Port Brisbane ends up
There's a
being
mirror right behind you. You can go have a look at yourself if you want to.
okay, if Port and Brisbane end up happening again, I will be. It's a very it wouldn't have happened at all ever, right? That 2 years in a row, it would have been 20 years on from the last
Something
one.
that's a very good question because you'd have to go back and look at it. But
It's a swamp thing.
yeah, that's not our job. We're too busy for that shit.
No.
That's yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it is quite ironic. And also the other thing is, Port Adelaide hadn't played. So last time Port played Hawthorn in a final was 2014, lost by 3 points. 2001, obviously they lost by 3 points. But the last time, yeah, they lost, and then they've now reverted back to winning. The last time Port played Sydney in a final, they lost. It was 21 years ago, I think. What happens this time?
Gonna be interesting. Gonna be
I'm just holding on strings here, to be honest.
no, it's gonna be very interesting. But then you look at everything. I saw a thing today where I saw actually it was last night that every grand final possible combination has happened before over time. So obviously Port Cats, Port Brisbane, Sydney Cats has happened, and then I saw the Sydney Brisbane one. I was like, I don't remember a Sydney Brisbane grand final. 1899, South Melbourne faced Fitzroy.
Well, I know they weren't even the actual identities of what they are
No,
today.
it was South Melbourne versus Fitzroy when those two teams came at it, which is very funny.
Well, Port haven't actually met Sydney in a grand final. It won't happen this year, but there is a combination that
Yeah,
actually
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
hasn't
saying.
happened. So interesting. What a
Very
fun
interesting.
week we've got ahead.
Footy.
And also is fun
Mm.
going around the glass table.
Yes, we had a lot of responses this week too, everybody. Thank you.
Now, Jared decided to go to uni on Friday, and while he was driving, he for some reason saw Brad Hill. And this ignited a story that we wanted to tell, and that was the fact that we wanted to talk about
Oh, it was me. Yeah, okay. We wanted to talk about the strangest interactions that you have had with a a footballer or a sports person over time. I was looking for the thing, and then I looked up and I was like, ah?
We're so much better at 8:30 p.m. than we are at 8:30 a.m.
But yes, we got a lot of responses to some of the questions. Have you got any in particular that you can think of off the top of your head that you liked uh specifically?
I really enjoyed the Hawthorn fan cast one where he's like, I sat next to Lewis Young on a flight to Adelaide yesterday. I did not say a word to him. Surprised I could pick him out of a lineup. So it's just like, you know who that is. And out of everyone you could see, you've seen him and then didn't say a damn word.
Yeah, that's a very good one. I think that's the best part is that it was probably one of those ones where afterwards you were like, pretty sure that was Lewis Young. Like at the time, you kind of like, I don't know. My favorite one is from Boomer. This is one that actually had me in stitches. My brother and I had medallion club tickets with the Park Pass on the stadium. When we were leaving the game, we bumped into David Hale. My brother told him how well he played. Hale calmly mentioned that he didn't play. Safe to say my brother had too many to drink. That is fucking astonishingly good. I love that so much. Be like, oh man, you're so good out there. And it was just like, I can just imagine Dave just taking a breath, being like, wasn't out there, mate. And just still walking. So good. I love that one. Unreal.
That's so funny. It's just like, ah, it's just, yeah. You also, you're too drunk and it's just like, oh, I'm not even embarrassed.
Yeah, no, you're just like, fuck it. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
I don't care.
Any other ones that you like?
Um, there was a couple of Instagram,
Yeah.
which this one was really funny to me. And I amused myself for a long, long time. And I actually got this screenshot sent to me a couple of times too, because it was so good. This one's from Darwin. Earlier this year, I used to work in a building in the Adelaide CBD. One day, as I was leaving, I see a grumpy looking guy with a short blonde hair mullet, um, walking towards me. As he got closer, I realized that's Kane Corns. I have no idea what he was doing there, but as he walked towards the elevators, I shouted power to win. Not sure if that amused him.
Gonna take
The
it.
last part
Yeah,
is
yeah.
what gets me. Not
I'm
sure if
gonna,
that amused him.
I'm gonna take a guess, an educated guess, and say it probably didn't amuse
No.
because that is incredible. Um, very, very good. It's a very similar one as well, coming from Ash, who won footy tickets back in the day from Nova. Went into Nova in the city, collect them, jumped to the elevator on the way out. The great Andrew McLeod was in there. Got super nervous and hung my head down in shame. Door opened. I walked out, totally realized it wasn't my floor. As I turned around to go back in, he brushed past laughing.
It's amazing what happens in a situation where you see a footballer.
Yeah, this is a footballer, but like getting into the story, I saw Tommy Little at so he's like obviously Australian comedian Tommy Little at the SCA, the Triple M offices in the city, and he clicked the wrong thing for the elevator, and so the doors open at like the mezzanine level, and he just turns and looks and goes, "That's pretty fucking awkward, eh?" And I thought it was so funny. And I left and I was like, fuck. And then like the doors had to then slowly close and then get down to the next level that we were both going to. And then that whole bit we were just looking down and he was like, right. It's just fucking so funny. Oh,
It's even better when they recognize it.
incredible. The best. He was like, this is fucking awkward. I was like, yep.
Oh, that's so funny.
What else you
Um,
got? You like?
it reminds me of well, the one I've got, and this is my most famous story. And for some reason, me and Ollie Wines have decided to connect over places that I wouldn't normally see Ollie Wines. Normally, you'd go open training, whatever the case may be. But Ollie Wines and I have run into each other at a music festival in the middle of McLaren Vale. We've also run into each other at the Loverboy nightclub. And this is probably, I mean, when I was at the festival, it was Ollie Wines, Darcy Ben Jones, Tom Cleary that I saw getting hammered, and it was fantastic. And I think it was like 21 or whatever. This only happened a couple of years ago. The week of when he won the Brownlow medal, he's at Loverboy walking down like he was just given the red carpet. And my mates come running past. I had no idea he was in there. And they're like, we've just seen Ollie Wines. And I'm like, no, you haven't.
No,
Don't lie
there's
to me.
no
This is
way.
after when Melbourne won the grand final as well, obviously. This is the night of. And they come, no, we did. And they show me the picture on their phone on Snapchat. And I'm like, oh my
Holy
God,
fuck.
that's Ollie Wines. Coming out of the, like, just walking down. They've gone, and I'm like, calm. And then I've seen him with his girlfriend. And I'm just,
Hello.
stuff it, stuff it. So I stormed into the other room, bought him a drink. And I said, can I get a photo? And he goes, you're that YouTuber. Because I used to do those things where he would go down to the open training and be like, oh, you gotta ask me a question. Don't do that anymore because I don't get enough time. Um, but yeah, that was the weirdest interaction because I was like, you're recognizing me, and I'm like, you're the Brownlow medalist 4 or 5 days ago.
Yep.
Still the most iconic photo I've ever got. And then for some reason, I had to make sure everyone else in the group got a photo.
Of course.
Then he sat down right near me. I gave him his drink. And then he got up and went somewhere else, and my mate decided to get up and sniff his chair. And then he turns to me and goes, I've just sniffed the Brownlow medalist chair.
Firstly, I'm so glad you didn't say that you did that. That is incredible. But what a story. I was gonna say I've seen that photo. I know I've seen that photo and I've heard the Loverboy story and it gets better every time because it's just like why is he there? He's like the most famous guy in Adelaide at the time. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to Loverboy.
Why are you at Loverboy?
So
Shouldn't you
good.
be in some 5-star
Let's
room
say
in the
some high end
casino
one.
or something?
Yeah,
You're
Jesus.
going to an underground club. Think you're not going to get recognized? Please, Ollie, come on. I've seen that square head a lot of places.
Incredible. The actual best. Before I say my one, there's one more on TikTok that I thought was really funny as well. This guy's named Harry. He met Draper at a cricket game and he didn't believe it was him. And when he tried to tell me it was him, I quizzed him on his which is just fucking incredible. Um, that would have been embarrassing. He said that very embarrassing. Yeah, I also the next day I would have woken up and I would have been like, fuck me, why did I do that? That is so
And that's just every week, though. That's
yeah,
something you do. We all do it. But the fact that it was Draper,
bad. Speaking of Essendon related, my one is I was in line for a club as well in St Kilda, and I just someone walks past me, and I'm like, pretty sure that's like Jaden Laverde, and I'm like, that's interesting. I'm like, it's like a bunch of these guys are just walking past, and they all kind of like, I think it was Caldwell as well. They were kind of like whatever, and then they crossed the road to go to a different club, like kind of down the Esplanade thing. And then I don't think anyone. I'm like, that's cool as Essendon players. Look back down at my phone. 5 seconds later, I get a hey boys, and me and the group of guys that we all look up, and it's Andy McGrath standing there looking at us, and he's like, and we're all like, you, and yeah, he was like, yeah, I know. He was like, have you seen where all the other boys went? And my mate's an Essendon fan, and he's like, yeah, it's down that way, Andy. And I was like, Andy, I was like, fucking righto.
you're out.
Mate,
You're on.
And it's just like, geez, boys already had plenty to drink, I'm sure. This is well into preseason. It's summer. Like they're, like it's off season. They can do this. And he's just like, yeah, cheers, boys. And then just jogs across the road after these fucking 6 other Essendon blokes. And I just turn around and I was like, fuck. What kind of conversation was that? I love how he came up to us. He was like, right, there's a group of guys. They are definitely going to know footy. I can go up to them and say, "Hey boys," they're gonna know who I am, and they will be able to point me in the direction of these other Essendon boys. He just knew. He had the feeling, and I was like, "That's funny." I actually respect the shit out of that.
It's just, I know who I am. They're going to know who I
They're
am.
gonna know
So
who I am, and I need help.
they're going to know exactly what I need.
Exactly, and I respected it. It wasn't like it wasn't an arrogant like, "Do you know who I am? Tell me where the boys are." It was just like a, let's just get past this first thing of, oh my God, Eddie McGrath, blah, 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 and let's get straight to the point. Where are the boys? I was like, I like it. Thank you, Eddie.
That's so good because he would have been standing there and like, holy shit, that's Jared Thomas from the glass table, and he's really stupid sexy.
Didn't see the segue coming. Not gonna lie to you. Did not see it coming.
Neither did Andy, really, but anyway. But he got to his destination and we got to ours.
We got 2 hours. Look at us go.
Stupid, sexy.
AFL players.
Some hell of a stories there. Thank you, everyone, for sending those in.
Yes.
Hopefully, again, that Jared Thomas will see Brad Hill probably
Brad
running
Hill.
next time. Anyway, stupid sexy time. I know we've got to hurry this one up a little bit because Jared has to start work.
Ugh.
Things we do for you, man.
Okay.
Anyway, do you want to go first?
Ah. Fine. My one. I actually think we might have done him before now that I'm looking at it.
I'm sorry.
Well, we might be repeating. We have repeated before.
Well, you can always go for sloppy seconds.
Funny thing is, I think I might have actually been the one to say it last time we did it. Regardless, though, I'm doing it anyway because, yeah. My player this week is a player that he was actually into the side this week. He missed last week. He missed the last couple of weeks, I think, actually. And there was just this highlights package that got played before the game, and I was like, damn. I know this makes me think that I've already picked him before because I definitely would have picked it, but this is something that I noticed in this highlights package, right? Some football players when they have their highlights, they pull these faces, they stick a tongue out, they're like really like whatever, like they do whatever. This player is the most, and I don't know if it's a different word than photogenic, but he's the most like every highlight, every slow-mo replay, he will be looking at his absolute peak no matter what, and I am yet to find a bad photo or video of this man. Long flowing black hair, got the stash, played well. Toby Bedford. Now this man, right? I challenge you.
Ooh.
I challenge you to go out there and find a bad looking photo of this guy because every highlight, it's always just the hair is flowing. He's like flexing because he's kicked a goal over. I'm like, you know the camera well. And you've done a
Oh,
very,
I like that.
and I think I picked him around this time last year, probably. Very good. Very good looking man. Toby Bedford. Very well done.
I like that. No wonder you wanted to take him to Bedford.
Well, the puns are back.
Anyway,
Who's yours this week?
mine might be the happiest kid in the world. Now, I've seen him take photos. He doesn't smile often, and he's not the biggest smiler in general. But the kid, when he kicks a goal, is like the most happiest bloke. It's like a release of everything. The smile that he has. What I saw on Friday night from this kid was the coming of age, and it's not just the stupid sexiness of him; it's the performance. And with a famous last name like Burgoyne, Jace Burgoyne is now entering his stupid sexy phase as well of his career.
Mhm.
The way he conducts himself as a skinny lad, to put yourself in positions that no one else at that size should. The tackles he laid, the pressure he puts on, the demolition job he did on Jack Ginnivan was exceptional. To go down and kick a goal and, like I said, celebrate like the happiest kid. And the first shot after the siren went is just Jace Burgoyne running into the arms of his teammates. And it's just like, you're a star kid. And you know what? I've had a few names in the list of who's going to take over when Boak retires as the number one.
Hmm.
Jace, I reckon you've gone up a lot of notches.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
high praise for the man. High praise for
Yeah.
the man.
Because the current situation is there's Houston and there's Horn Francis and then there's Bergman. Three blondes after replacing a brunette. It's kind of interesting. But
Got a tie.
Bergman's thrown his name into the phrase. So brunette's in there.
Mhm.
Pick the odd one out. Jace Burgoyne, you're doing your father proud. You're doing everyone else proud. And you're doing the Port Adelaide community proud because the way he wears that number 7, plays with his heart on his sleeve, and the improvement that the kid's had over the last 12 months has been extraordinary. Been a feature all year on that wing. to go halfback and play on one of the most damaging key small forwards in the comp in Jack Ginnivan and stand up against the talls and put yourself on the line in whatever situation.
Well done, Jace. I
Kudos.
think, yeah, and I think you're right in that coming into this year, he was kind of not like on the outer, but like people were like, is he going to really live up to the name? Is he going to live up to, him, the person he is kind of thing? And then from the start of this year, Jace Burgoyne has been excellent. And there has been a lot of
Mm.
games where, and it's also in the games that are difficult and the games that are like really high pressure. He always stands up. The one that I think was the Carlton game, maybe from memory, was
Yes.
one of his best ones as well. Sensational. What I also loved, and this is just a personal thing that I was like, this is really nice, is that at halftime, obviously you're at the game, so you wouldn't be able to see it on the Channel 7 broadcast. Sean Burgoyne, the performance player of the half, was Chase, and so they made Sean Burgoyne do the reading of it, which was so good because you could just tell he was very excited. You could just tell he was like, he's been really good. It was just like this nice little thing, and then all the boys on the desk were like, oh, I wonder he's a Burgoyne, and Sean was really awkwardly like. Yeah, it was actually really cool to watch, and he was fucking unreal on the weekend, and very good looking man, as we know, and just a very good footballer. Deserves it. Deserves to play in a prelim. Jace Burgoyne, you're a fucking little superstar. You are.
34 games and you're putting out a performance like that in a semi-final is not to be brushed aside.
Not whatsoever. He was very, very good on the weekend. It was very nice to watch and a very good, like I said, a coming of age game. There was a few of them on the weekend, like you said. Logan Evans, especially Logan Morris. That's Lions. Logan Evans as well. Another one. Logan Morris was also got subbed out. Logan Evans had himself a really good game as well. Just Port young boys doing what they need to do. There's been a few of them, and this is the perfect example of that as well.
After it all, this is it. This is done. This is our podcast ending because we have completed everything that we've needed to.
Yeah.
And I think, was there anything else you'd like to add?
Get very excited for the prelims this week, people, because I think people like and you said it obviously earlier, people were expecting the Hawks and the Giants and the Dogs and everything like that. And like I'm not going to say that I wasn't either. Obviously the Hawks are, we're on this tear kind of thing. The fact that it's just four just fucking hard team, like three of the top four, Brisbane's in there who were in the top four pretty much all year, or not all year, but like stormed home, probably should have finished top four. We have every right, every chance that these four games are going to be fucking unreal. And I think regardless of whatever the grand final matchup is, it's going to be a good one.
Be more coming of age games to come as well from the young stars, and it's been a pretty good one. I reckon after Friday night, I was also coming of age, so it's and by that I do really really mean I am 27 but felt 72. So
that
definitely not
aged,
the other thing.
that aged plenty. It was 2 hours, but it was really 35 years.
Yep, 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 yep. Anyway, enjoy this view, and we shall see you for a grand final preview in a few weeks. Well, 1 week,
1 week.
because Jared doesn't want to record next weekend. Anywho, it's been a pleasure, everyone. I shall speak to you very soon. Come the fucking back. That's just a weird angle to look at. Anyway.